My name is Dr. Fuss, pronounced Fuss, looks like Fuss, F-U-S-S. There's my name and my email address. Feel free to contact me. In allied health, in the health science programs, it can be a little confusing because we kind of call the entire unit, which includes nursing and even Professor Riding's areas of health enhancement, that sometimes is referred to as health sciences because we're all under one dean. Dr. Monique Davis is the dean of health sciences. But we also use health sciences to mean allied health, which are basically the health science professions that are not nursing. I am a nurse by background, was nursing faculty for 15 years and have been health science chair this academic year. So the programs in our health science department are diagnostic medical sonography, sometimes called sonography, sometimes abbreviated as DMS. Echocardiography also falls under diagnostic medical sonography, and they have multiple tracks within that program. Fire science, emergency management, and homeland security is not does not require selective admission the way the other ones do, but they also fall under my area, so I want to include them here as well. Health information management, physical therapist assistant, radiologic technology, and surgical technology are the programs in the allied health department. So admission requirements, that's kind of the number one question. As Professor Agostini talked about with nursing, and Professor Alcansande talked about some, and actually Professor Kilby as well, you probably will see that the prerequisite requirements are very, very similar across all the health science programs. All of them are going to require you to take English. Many of them require English 102 or 103. A few of them will let you get by just with English 101. Math 117 is statistics, and that is a prerequisite for biology 150, which is a prerequisite for biology 212 and 213, which are anatomy and physiology. So in pretty much all the health sciences, except for health information management, they have a different A&P course that doesn't have as many prerequisites that they can take. But all the other programs, you have to take them in that sequence, starting with Math 117, then biology 150, then biology 212, and 213. Some programs have additional requirements. So as you can see on the slide here, there's a QR code and there's a link. This is all on our website, but that links to a PDF that gives the specific requirements for each program. For instance, diagnostic medical sonography, you have to take physics. Off the top of my head, I'm forgetting that we're not in nursing, but nursing has to take microbiology. That one actually you don't have to take if you're applying to any of the other health sciences. They all have very similar general education and program requirements as well, which are your other courses like your humanities and your arts that round out your degree. The TEAS exam is required for most programs, but not all. And I'll highlight the ones that where it's not required. So we can double check, but in general, it's 117 or higher. Yep. Good question.
So I can use that grade even though I took it maybe like a year or two ago?
Yes, that should be fine. Yep.
Okay.
That should meet the requirement for biology 150, which then you would have to take for your other classes. Yep.
What's the cutoff for prerequisites before you have to retake them?
It's usually 5 years, but definitely, check with us on a case-by-case basis about that, but it's usually 5 years. So our admissions process, you see the link there, that QR code is active if you want to use that. Also, if you go to the Montgomery College website and you type in health science admissions, you literally will get to this page, and that will get you to most of the documents that we're talking about tonight. So the good news is the health science application is one application for all disciplines, allied health and nursing. So you fill out one application and you can put first choice, second choice, third choice, and you don't have to apply, to every program. There are, the deadlines vary between some of the programs, and obviously the requirements vary some. but it's very common for students to apply to, 2 or even 3 of our programs, because admission is competitive, and some of our programs in particular, as you see there, I say this year, diagnostic medical sonography and radiologic technology were our most competitive programs. So I strongly advise you, if those are your first choices, that you have a second choice. And if your first choice is diagnostic medical sonography, probably radiologic technology shouldn't be your second choice, because if you're picking those as your only 2, those, like I said, those each have less than 30 seats available per year. And this year we're very, very highly sought after. So unfortunately, I would love to have more seats, but our for a variety of reasons, including mostly our clinical sites you've heard about, limit the number of seats that we can have. I don't have a definite date. This year, I feel like it opened February. Probably will open even earlier next year. Honestly, this year we started the application process online as a Microsoft Forms instead of the paper application. And so that was in development, and it might have opened a little bit later because that we were developing that than it did some years. Basically, when you get accepted, if you contacted the coordinator of a program, they might be able to arrange something like that, but it's generally once you're accepted into a program. Okay. The program you want to get into, and you can deal with the fact that possibly you don't get into it, and then you're waiting, that there are students that do that, to be quite honest. They either wait another year, or unfortunately, maybe they even, go look to another school, but there aren't a lot of DMS schools. So I just say that because, I know the reality of of the numbers. And if you're thinking about, your future and future career, just something to think about. I can't force you to, but it's just a suggestion on my end. They are considered full-time programs, even though the credits may not be a full load, but it is really a full-time commitment, because you're going to have class and you're going to have clinical. So it honestly is very challenging to do the programs if you're working full-time. Yes, I see somebody put my email in the chat. That's right. Yes, it's I would highly recommend that when you start the program, that if at all possible, you find a way to, reduce your hours, work part-time, work weekends, because your class and your clinical can take up 3, 4, sometimes even 5 days a week, to be quite honest. Okay. It's full-time, daytime classes for all of these courses. And the only one that is online is health information management. And emergency management, Homeland Security is also online. But all the others, and even in health information management, you also would have clinical. So they're all very intensive programs. So on the slide that you see here is just kind of talking a little bit more about admission requirements. There are priority courses that, if you've completed those, that kind of brings you up in the ranking, as well as your T-scores. And if it takes you more than one attempt at your science courses, then that's going to move you down, down the list. That is also taken into account. How many times did you need to take those courses? Even though the grade shows up in your transcript, the new grade, the fact that you've taken retaken those courses does move you down in the list. Your clinical sites are going to be at a variety of hospitals: Holy Cross, Adventist, Suburban, all the Montgomery County hospitals, even some in DC and other places. So just to go through some of the programs. So our radiologic technology program, and this slide really kind of applies to a lot. They sent me this, but it kind of applies to all of our programs. They're all patient care oriented. all of our programs go to, you know, a lot of the same facilities. They're all fast paced. They're all good for critical thinkers. The job market is great for radiologic technology. For all of these programs, our students are often getting job offers before they even graduate. Each program in that document, each program, it shows what the minimum requirements are, and then what the priority courses are, etc. But again, you can always contact me. You can contact Professor Morawski. You can contact the faculty who are listed on the website. Somebody will get back to you. We talked about the physical therapist assistant program. Professor Sunday talked about that a good deal. So I don't have a whole lot to add about that. Our diagnostic medical sonography program, like I said, there are just under 30 seats. It is our most competitive. That application is due March 1st. So those are earlier because they start in the summer. Our surgical technology program admits up to 20 per year. Their admission is actually still open until May 15th. The TEAS test is not required for surgical technology, where it is for DMS, for radiologic technology. Health information management, also no TEAS required. It is an online program. And there is a certificate option where you basically take the HINM courses, but not all the courses to get a degree. It's the only one that has a certificate option, a non-degree option. These are QR codes and links for our various programs. But again, if you go to health science admissions, go to Montgomery College webpage, go to health science admissions, search that, that'll take you to the page where all this is found. Yeah, like I said, I believe it's 5 years, but we could look at that on a case-by-case basis. Which bio class you take, it says you take 150 or 101 for HIM. I would have to look. You probably can for HIM because HIM you do not have to take A&P 1 and 2, 212 and 213. You take human body, which is 130 and 131, and that does not have the bio 150 prerequisite. So that saves you some time. Let's see, acceptance rate for DMS program. I can tell you that there were well over 100 applicants for the 30 seats. So what does that mean? 30%? Now, I can't guarantee that those 100 applicants were all qualified, but I know that over 100 applied. Can you be a high school student and sign up? We do have some openings for early college students in some of the programs. But you would definitely want to talk with us about that. Have really good grades, have completed all your courses, including A&P 2, biology 213, physics, everything. And hopefully having only had to take those courses once. Are the general education requirements considered a prerequisite? No. Most people honestly do most, if not all, of the general education stuff before they start the health science programs, but they're generally not a requirement to have done before you start the program. Medical billing and coding, yes. So that's our HINM program, and then there is also the certificate that is the non-degree program. So like I said, there's a document that says what the requirements are, and then on that same document it talks about the TEAS score. If TEAS score is required by that program, like I said, if you had to retake some of your courses, then that you kind of lose points for that, as well as your GPA. Those are basically the factors. They're all on that document. Unfortunately, there's no way to know, because you don't really know the competition that you're going to be up against. So, you might talk to somebody and they might say, well, I had this GPA and I got in. The next year, the other applicants could have even better GPAs. So there's no way to say going in, yes, you definitely have what it takes to get in, because it's all based on the number of people that apply and the competition that you have. But like I said, those are outlined on the document that's on the website. So in general, you need to keep a 2.5 GPA throughout the programs. In all of these programs, unfortunately, since they're once a year, basically, if you fail a class, that class isn't going to run again for another year. So you have the option probably of returning the following year, but there's no way to make up a class because each class only runs once a year. So failing one class doesn't necessarily mean that you're out of the program for good, but it realistically means that you're sitting out for a year waiting for that class to run again. Yep.
As long as you just keep the 2.5 GPA, right?
Yes, you need to keep a 2.5 GPA and pass your courses. You have to pass all your courses with a C because anything under a C in health science is not passing.
Okay, so if you fail a class, do you have to reapply overall, or will they let you like just redo the course?
That would be a decision, that the program coordinators would make. But I know of cases when they've kind of put you in a holding pattern and let you come back the next year. I don't have their schedules in my head, but basically you're probably in class or clinical a good 4 days a week. All of these programs, your clinical is when you're in clinical, sometimes it's 3, even 4 days a week in clinical, as well as a day or two in class. So some of the programs kind of front load class and then you have clinical. But if you want specific class schedules, you can contact me. You also can even go online and you can look up the current class schedules on the website and kind of get an idea. I don't have it off the top of my head to tell you what meets on what days, but be happy to talk with you about that. Either email me or email the program coordinator on the website about specific class schedules. But in general, you're probably going to have, like I said, a 4 on average day commitment a week between class and clinical. And when you're doing clinical, in a lot of these cases, you're at the hospital, you're at the site for 8 hours a day for clinical. Yeah, I know a lot of them are 102 and a couple are 101. I think RadTech might be one that it's only 101. It's possible that you could, but as competitive as DMS is, it would be not to your advantage, unfortunately, because somebody who has completed that course is going to have more points, in the point system. You could, if there are any prereq, or priority courses that aren't available at another institution, you can always become a Montgomery College student. Health sciences is a competitive admission, but becoming a Montgomery College student and taking any of the prerequisite courses is not competitive admission. It's just like any other community college. You sign up, you come and take the classes. So you would want to take that, before applying or in the process of applying. Depending on the area, like especially DMS, definitely goes to some outpatient centers. I'm not sure if Surge Tech goes to any. Rad Tech goes to some outpatient centers. So yeah, most of them have inpatient and outpatient. Probably more on the hospital inpatient side, but there are outpatient opportunities in a lot of the programs. We do have some TEAS prep courses there. I don't think there are any coming up real soon, but we do have some TEAS prep courses. And if there's an interest, probably could add some more, as well as some learning support specialists that can help with that. But there is a link on the website about getting help with TEAS.
Are those courses free?
They are not. The
Okay.
prep course is not free. You might be able to consult with learning support specialists about it, and that would be free. But the prep courses are not free. All right. If you have further questions, send me an email, and hope to hear from a lot of you. Hope to see your names on the list of applicants for next year. And thank you for your time. and have a good night.